Today's episode of the PeopleNova Podcast, we talk about being lucky. Well, we discuss how luck isn't about waiting for the fancy car to magically appear in the driveway. We talk about the interconnectedness of data points, visualizing what success looks like, and building an intentional network of connections, not for ulterior motives, simply to surround ourselves with the type of life we want to lead. We are the narrators for our own life. Why would you let someone else script your life? Let's listen to a fascinating conversation with Angel Silvestrini and understand how not to compromise on the important aspects of our life and work. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the PeopleNova Podcast. My name is Rachel O'Neill. I'm very excited for today's guest. Angel, do you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, Rachel. Thanks for the opportunity to be with you today. My name is Angel Silvestrini. I'm an attorney in Latinx Legal, and we're a national law firm that basically is a boutique law firm for Latinx people from Latin American descent and dealing with their legal needs. And we're in New York, Florida, Massachusetts, and Puerto Rico. We're really oriented towards entrepreneurs and business owners, and we do bankruptcy, we do other areas, but mainly we really want to give the entrepreneur, the business owner, all the tools to really, get their business going.
Do you do business contingency planning?
We do.
Yep. Yes. Another one of our guests on the show does wills and trusts and business contingency. So we had a whole podcast about death. It was a little weird, but supportive, right? So
it's the year, right?
Well, I mean, in the era of Corona, we have to talk about putting our affairs in order. But we're going to talk about the fun stuff of starting your business and being a Latinx entrepreneur. What does the human side of business, what does that mean to you?
I really tied into my philosophy of really connecting with people, because at the end of the day, you find companies and branding, and you have these corporate personas, right? But they started in the image of the people that were trying to do something different, right? To create like an amazing idea and bring it from their brains to the marketplace, and you have to connect with that really. And I think the market now really looks to that. It's like who am I dealing with, right? Who do I want to work with? Who I want to partner with, right? And that connection really has to tie into the human beings behind it, right?
Right.
Yeah.
How, so for entrepreneurs who maybe have struggled with the relationship building part of like evaluating their investors, what might you suggest for them?
Well, I'm an attorney by trade, right? So one of the ways that I deal with approaching a problem is doing my research, right? I want to, and especially in negotiations, I do a lot of negotiating for my clients. I want to know everything there is about this person, right? So if you're looking to partner up, or you're looking to just reach out to someone over, LinkedIn, right? Do your research, right? Go down, scroll down on that LinkedIn and say, what are these ventures, right? They were working here for 5 years. What was this, right? And really, really do research on that person. So when you talk to them or you reach out to them, then you can really know if it's a great fit, right? If this person has been doing a lot of social impact work, or is this person really championing underrepresented groups, right? So is this going to be someone that I can connect with? And for us, for the Latinx community, that's a challenge, right? In connecting with other people, right? We don't have the vast networks that other groups have, right? And part of what we want to do in Tequeria and on a personal level for me as well is to share what I know, pass it along, but also connect with people so we're not sort of isolated, right? I mean, when I work with entrepreneur, or I work with Latinx individuals that are really moving up in the technology world, right? They have the skills, they have the passion, they've been doing amazing work, and now they're thrust into situations where they're unfamiliar, right? And a lot of the cultural, baggage sort of, props up. It's like, well, for me, from, being Puerto Rican, from Puerto Rican descent, well, culturally, we're not taught to really sing our praises, right? And
Ah, great, great.
I've been on diversity panels and women in business, and I know that's an issue as well. It's like, you're taught to sort of, be humble, right? And for us, really, we need to champion ourselves, right? When we're talking with someone, when we're talking to an investor, or we're talking to someone that could help us, we need to, in the right way, connect with them and show them that we're great, right? That we're amazing, that this is what we bring to the table, right? And sometimes we don't have that connection to people that can help us achieve those things, right? And I know, for you, you've been in HR forever, you're an executive coach, and you work, with people like this that need that little push, need to like that strategy, right? And those connections for us are really important, because we show up at a negotiation for salary or working on, terms for a contract. It's, I'm just really happy that I'm getting this. Whoa, whoa, whoa. You're an all-star, you're a rock and roller, right? You need to show them that this is what they're getting. And you also need to negotiate, because this is expected of you, right? This is someone you don't, there's a line, right? You don't want to be ultra difficult, right? But also it's like, look, you want to push for something that's valuable to you.
You have to know your value. You have to stand on your value, right? Those are my favorite clients, right? Like right now I'm working with a Black woman entrepreneur, and we're going through and we're crafting her business mission and vision. And she's like, I don't know how to say this without being, the angry Black woman. And I'm like,
Sure.
You just have to stand on your value. That's all. Like, you have to stand firm. And she's like, I'm always code switching. And I'm like, stop code switching, right? If you have to go into a conversation, you have to contort yourself, you're not standing on your value. So stop that, number one, right? And even in just 1 week of working with her, I've seen a dramatic improvement. My favorites, right? Like, it's about working with entrepreneurs on a very close level, right? And gaining and earning their trust, and helping them navigate and stand on their value, stand on their power, and not adjust it.
No, I completely agree. So when I'm looking at, a contract or another, employer, or, an HR person that's really creating a lot of havoc, right? Or drawing a hard line, I tell my clients that, listen, do you want to be in business with this person, right? They just threw this, unconscionable non-compete, right?
Yeah.
And,
Do this here and there.
Yeah. And it's like, look, they're trying to really hurt you on this, right? You're going to have to move to Alaska to really, work. If you leave them, is this someone that you really want to work with, right? And, when you're looking at these terms, and especially also, like you mentioned, look, you're talking to, that entrepreneur, and the investor or the vendor or the other person really is causing problems, right? That negotiation is going to tell you if you want to be in business with them or not, right? When you're negotiating, you're in that HR office, negotiating terms or talking salaries or, or whatever, that person's going to tell you who they are right away. And that's the moment that everyone's in love. Okay, we're starting a relationship, either business or this is love. I need someone. You're great. You're coming in, and in that moment, that ecstasy, you're still having problems, right? And they're being, they're drawing a hard line, or they're really being difficult.
Yeah.
That's telling you that this is the love. This is love right now. How's really hate going to be a little bit later down the road? If there's issues, right?
Yeah.
It's going to be brutal. Right?
I also like to tell people, to build on that, I also like to tell people at the outset of your relationship, when you're all in love, like that's also the moment to say, hey, when is this not going to work for us? Right?
Sure.
Like, while we're all getting along, ideally, while we're all getting along and like we're doing the T's and C's, what is, the moment where we're like, oop, this is not going to work for me, when, your career is going to go in a different direction, or your passion for our social impact is going to wane, or you get, you're not able to bootstrap anymore, right? Like, what does that moment look like? I like to have those conversations at the outset.
Sure.
During the romance, if you will,
Sure.
because I think it's helpful for everyone to kind of know, like, what does that future point look like, and how will we know when we get there?
Yeah. Especially, in tougher times, right? For employment, for business, you don't ask those questions, right? And you think, well, I just, I need this contract, right?
Yep.
Or I need this employment, right? But, maybe if
Or I need this investor, so I'm just going to take it.
I have to, right? The idea is, look, this is against what I'm really doing. This is against my principles for employment. This is against, my business principles. This goes against something that I really, really cherish. You're missing out maybe on another opportunity or another pivot, right? And, the idea is really, have an introspective look, right? Really keep an eye on your goals, on who you are as a company, as an entrepreneur, as a person, and don't compromise on the really important parts.
It is so crucial to be able to ground oneself on what's important to me, what's important to what I'm building. And that's the magnetic attraction that brings employees, that brings investors, that brings that energetic connection of like, oh my gosh, I got to get on this rocket ship. It's going to be amazing. Not, I'm going to make a quick 10X, which is nice. And yes, our investors are like that, but
Sure.
It's really about building an organization that is making a difference in the world, creating something that has never existed before, and really knowing your purpose. And I know there's a lot of memes and articles out there about like living your purpose and, best life and things like that. But if you take the moment to meditate on that, to work with a coach, to really ground yourself in what those are for you and the company that you're building, which there can be overlap, but they're not like all the same, right? Then you'll know how to say no to bad money. You'll know how to say no to the wrong hire.
You can have all the money, but you're going to, this is not sort of compatible with you.
Yeah.
I like creative people. I like energy. I like passion. I said, I'm going to do this. And I started working with entrepreneurs and, it's so amazing. I mean, the calls come in.
Choice. It was choiceful. And you are living your values. You're amazing.
I'm loving it, right? It's not easy though, right? You get calls at, on Sundays, like, there's something blowing up, but doing what you love and doing what you like, right?
It doesn't feel like work.
Doesn't feel like it.
Sorry, I didn't mean to take away.
No, that's it. Boom. Like... That's it. It's like, look, it's great. I don't feel it, so.
Yeah, when I have to host, community gatherings on a Saturday morning, like, I'm totally fine with that. And it's not, chained every Saturday. This weekend I'm going camping. Like, great, cool. Someone else I can delegate. Like, that's awesome, right? But it doesn't feel like work, right? And that's the part when you're doing a job, when you're living your values and you're contributing in a way that just feels like life. It's not. I mean, it's hard, but it's not like soul crushing hard.
Sure.
Yeah.
To me, that goes back to, who your advisors are, right? That conversation, it's very tough for you to figure that out, right? Because you're an entrepreneur, you're doing everything yourself, at the beginning, right? You're doing stuff that, that you didn't really, think about when you said, look, I'm going to start this company, right? But at that point, you really have to have that vision and have those skills developed to attract people to come in and work with you, right? Because you have your vision and you're really good at something, right? And that is where, 95% of your time has to be, expended on, right? You have to really know what you do well. And that conversation, it comes from you, it comes from, advisors and friends. It's like, look, the tough friend will tell you, it's like, look, you're not a communicator, right? This is not your thing, right? So that's kind of tough. right? You love this person, you're friends, but do you care about this person enough to tell them, look, you're about to sink your life savings into this. You need a complementary piece,
Yep.
right? And a lot of times for me, when I'm working with entrepreneurs, it's like, who's your partner? Who are you bringing along, right? Oh, well, this person's great. He's my best friend. Well, what do they bring, to the table?
Are you
right?
ready to lose that friendship?
Boom. I mean, the majority of, of businesses and startups, they die because, funding, well, it's infighting, right?
If they don't run out of money, it's the team dynamics and the infighting. Yep. And people don't go through the awkwardness of building that relationship. I developed a workshop for the Harvard iLab called 36 Questions to Fall in Wealth. A parody on that, internet quiz, 36 Questions to Fall in Love. And it really was about have you had these conversations with your co-founder? Have you talked about the importance of equity? Have you talked about what your exit plan is? Have you talked about what's more important to you, a 10x return or a quick exit, quick time versus money, perhaps, right? Like, do you know what these answers are first? Do you know what these answers are for yourself? Start there. Yeah. And then have you had that conversation with your co-founder or your co-founding team or whoever is involved?
Because those are major.
They're
because
huge.
If you're going to have problems, if you're not on the same page, right? You want to cash out, right? Then you're really dragging your feet. You're causing problems with investors, right? And a lot of times when I'm working with people, I'll tell them, say, listen, I'll go against the grain on this. Like, you don't need a lot of legal help. Right? If you're doing it alone, right? Don't invest in a lawyer at this point because they're just going to take your money. Yeah. Right? You don't know. But if you're going in with a co-founder, right? Invest just a little bit in getting some documents together that, like you said before, what is this going to look like if it goes bad, right?
Yeah.
Well, I'm owner of the company, and until there's a liquidation, I'm sticking with my shares. Or, do you have to meet some benchmarks, right? Or, can the company repurchase your shares if there's an issue? How much, does it cost, right? What's the valuation, internal valuation of this? And all that stuff, it really is going to work on your behalf, because right now things are great, but later, right, you have a great idea, you're passionate. The other person, look, I got another job, this big company is offering me a lot of money.
Yep.
Yeah. And
baby on the way, like life happens. Or
Sure.
like elder care. My parent went into, like nursing care or something, right? Like there's life happens and it forces us, Corona happens and it forces us to make choices
Sure.
about, either our career or where we're living or what have you. And having those conversations up front with the co-founding team, incredibly crucial. But then also like checking in every so often, right? Yeah. I don't know if the perfect cadence is 3 months or 6 months or 8 months, right? But like, I have this hang up right now about consent, right? Like we have to continually check in with each other and say, do we still all agree? Like, are we all on the same page? Do we understand the North Star? Are we, let's just not assume, right? Not assume that you guys are going to be in this forever until, we hit the jackpot. But are we continually checking in, making sure that we have alignment, that we know kind of the risk factors in our early team, and are we able to support them instead of ruin the relationship? Like, what are the signs and indications that we can get there and say, okay, hey, Angel, looks like you have some competing interests for your time. Like, let's revisit that.
Yeah. And you can, and having conversations with your team and checking in with them is what, a founder, co-founder, a leader needs to do. Even if you assume that everyone should be doing their work, right? People, especially now, with everyone working remotely, things creep up, right? Yeah. And if you're not reminded of why you're doing this, right? Or, connecting with your people, you're going to lose, some of them. Right. And it might just be something as easy as, look, I want to check in with you. How are you? Look, I care about you. What's going on? Are you doing well?
The human side of business, and we're full circle.
No, there it is. Look, and even if it's a big company or a small company, right? You're in a team in a big company, right? You're only as good as your, what they said, the weakest link, right? And you don't want that weakest link, right? So, usually you've taken the time to really connect with people. You don't want it to decay. You don't want that link to decay, right? You want to, take care of it because they're going to take care of you, right? And sometimes, and it's hard, right? For me, it's hard for me as well, because I get engrossed with things, right? And I tell my clients, and they know, right? If I have something that's on the hopper, right? I was working on a merger, maybe 2 weeks ago. And I told people, I said, listen, look, I'm going into the bunker.
Heads down, right? Focus on this.
Yes, this is it. I become that issue, and it's not. Some people might say that's not the best, but that's how I work, right?
But you're communicating, right?
But yes,
and this is what success looks like. Look, I know I'm going to be distracted. Like something has to be on fire if you want my attention. I'm going to be focused. Other here, I haven't forgotten you. I think that's amazing communication. I think that's great.
And you touch base, right? And you say, look, basically, I love you. You're good. I'll do this for you as well, right? You will have, if things go south, right? Or when we're ready to close a deal,
yes,
right? I will be there 100%.
Exactly.
And communicating that will be great. And I have to remind myself to do that, right? Because, I go into sort of that mode, right? That beast mode. And I said, look, I have to tell people what's going on. Right. And, if either through Slack or, getting on a Zoom call or something, I said, listen, I'm about to go in. Yeah. You all know this. What do you guys need of me now? Because I'm going in. Right. And now people laugh. Right. And it's like, my team really, we laugh about this, but, it's not easy. So you have to remind yourself to say, listen, not everyone is on your same page, right? Yeah. And everyone's different. They process things differently. And that's the key to team building. That's that's the key to having a great corporate culture. It's like,
and communication is different for everyone. When folks are like, oh, I need, you need to be a better communicator, or like, so-and-so is not communicating with me. And it's like, okay, but what does that mean? Like, let's get really granular. Do you need to know that the person's going to go heads deep into like a super big case? Or do you need them to like, is it the emotional reinforcement of like checking in every day to make sure that things are stable? And these are patterns that we learn from, childhood and our family and those, terrible bosses that we're still trying to get rid of.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I wanted, before we get to another point, I have I wanted to clarify something. I mentioned before that I like to visualize, right? Yeah. And one thing that really gets my goat is that a long time ago, there was this thing, I think it was The Secret or something, right? And it was like a video. It was like a thing. Okay. And it was like, look, if you visualize it, it'll come true, right? And, I like to add some footnotes as a lawyer, right? Footnotes are big. So, visualization is, you have it in front of you, you remind yourself, right? But you draw the connecting points on how you're going to get there, right? A lot of times, and that video really, pissed me off big time. It's like, I'm sitting back, like a couch potato, like eating chips and thinking about a Ferrari, and it's going to show up in the front of your house.
No, that's not it.
No, that's not visualizing, right?
No.
You have it. This is your goal. This is what you want. You put it out there. You remind yourself, and then like right underneath it, right, or like on your Asana or something. Yeah. This is how we get there. Yeah. Right? This is. It might seem a little rocky, but this is how we do it, right? And you remind yourself about that, right?
So earlier in the show, you were like, "Yeah, I'm lucky," and I'm like, I have feelings when I hear that word, because luck can sometimes be that I'm sitting on the couch expecting the Ferrari to show up. And it's like, yeah, that's not luck. And like, that's not real.
No.
Visualizing what you want to create in the world is intentional, it is
Mhm.
choiceful, and it takes effort. You got to go work for it, and you got to keep your eye on that North Star. I think luck is more about hard work and about being intentional than it is about, waiting for something to show up on your doorstep.
Sure. And what I mean about luck is that a lot, especially for the Latinx community, there is a lot of obstacles out there, right? And I come from a position of privilege, right? you know I had food,
Mm-hmm.
right? I had opportunities, right? I was lucky. I was born in a position where I had protection. I had a roof. I had books. I had a computer, right? And that's what I meant about luck, right? But at the end of the day, and this is really important, it's, look, even if you don't have those things, right? You might have maybe a couple more items on that, sort of those connecting the dots things, right? But the visualization works, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like, okay, and I read, for example, of the book, the Sotomayor, the Supreme Court
Uh-huh.
justice, a memoir, right?
Okay.
I forgot the name, but um, and she grew up, right? She didn't have a lot, right? But she had family, right? And she had that community that helped her, right? Keep those points, connect those points, right? And it was up to her to connect it, because there were 1,000 other people that really could didn't do what they wanted, right? But the idea is, look, even if you don't have that $1 million house, and you weren't grew up in, right? Look at it positively, and really look to what you need to do, right? Look to the things that are around you, and how can you use them for your benefit, right?
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times, and this really pisses me off, in a big way. I was invited on a panel a long time ago, accomplished people, just beautiful, people of color, just rock and rollers, just
Yeah.
awesome, right? And they're talking is, well, even though I grew up in this place, or in the in the hood, or in el barrio, I reached this. I said, listen, man, let me tell you, right? Your experiences built you, right? If you didn't have a lot of hardship in front of you, you wouldn't have achieved, the same things. So you wouldn't have been as hungry as you were, right? So don't put down your experience. It's like, well, I wasn't born into, privilege. Well, okay, but it's not a handicap. Look, let's look at it, in a different way, right? So, for example, like, I have ADD, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I, to me, doing like really spreadsheet type work. Look, I want to throw myself off of the third
Delegate.
floor, right?
Boom.
Yes,
Right there. Delegate.
but I see things that other people don't,
Great.
right? I'm very creative in that way. And I recently, last week, I was working on a case, $1 million case. They lost it. They were, completely just broken up, right? And I'm looking at it and say, look, take a look at this. And I'm looking at it, da, 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 da. And then something popped up, right? And then I said, look, this doesn't look right. And I went to a colleague. It was his case, and I said, look, this is it. Oh, no, there's no way. They're lost, right? I said, look at this. And I prepared, the memo. I prepared everything. I was like, holy smokes, I didn't see this, right? And they went up, and literally, yesterday, on Monday, they won. They reopened. They had lost $1 million judgment against them, and we were able to pinpoint. I was able to pinpoint, this theory, and that came because who I am, right?
Mm-hmm.
If I sit down and it's like, it's too bad, I can't really focus on this. No, screw that. If my attention is put on something that I love, it becomes, I become a master of it.
Yeah.
Right. And, that's really on building your strengths, right? Connecting that way.
Awesome. I love that. Right. So I coach to strengths instead of trying to convince somebody I use the bunny rabbit and the fish metaphor. Totally make this up, right? It's not a parable, but like if you're not good at spreadsheets, let's call that the fish, right? You're a creative problem solver. That's a bunny rabbit, right? And so trying to coach you to be a good fish is not going to be successful. Bunny rabbits don't swim, right? Yeah. So you know, and I've used this metaphor with hiring managers when they talk about, you know, oh, this person we hired isn't a fit, okay, but why? Did you need someone who swims and does spreadsheets and like is really detail oriented? But why did you hire a bunny rabbit? We didn't know. Well, okay, so like, let's be really intentional and let's play to people's strengths. If we're really good at being a bunny rabbit, you know, acknowledge we're not good at spreadsheets and delegate. There are amazing people who really love spreadsheets. Great. Makes them joyful. Great.
Yeah.
Delegate.
And then really having that connection, right, in that position will really make someone, you know, flourish, right? Really connect, you know, and just like, wow, you know, woo, this role is it, right? Mm-hmm. But a lot of times, especially you know, with your rich background in HR, you have these conversations with people that really they have their little boxes and they can't see them, you know, that they have like this amazing resource right in front of them, right?
Or there's distractions of like people are expecting them to be good at swimming. And it's like, no, don't let friends, family, right? Sure. Society put those, you know, put those distractions on you. You're a great bunny rabbit. Embrace it.
In diversity too. I mean, when you're looking at, you know, checking all those boxes, right? And if you don't really understand what diversity looks like, right? And, you know, it's not about, you know, this really, you know, gets my goat, which is, oh, we're really, you know, looking for diversity, right? And, you know, this company and this, and, you know, we have all these things. And all right, so what does that, you know, diversity look to you? Well, you know, they have a CS, you know, computer science background, you know, and maybe they have, you know, a master's, you know, in business, you know, and then, you know, they come from an underrepresented group, right? And it's, well, you know, that's great, but you have the same sort of, you know, person, right? And you just change the color or change the gender or, you know, so that's not what you're looking for. It's like, look,
you still have to meet our pedigree, but you could be any color you want to be.
Right. Like, great. We want that.
That's diversity.
Yes, we want that. I love that. Right. I'm open to it. Yes. No, look, you know, maybe they didn't have the resources to, you know, go into debt, right, to get, you know, an MBA or a computer science, you know, doctorate, right? But what have they achieved with what they have? Are they hungry? Are they like
do they know how to solve problems? Are they resourceful?
Fast learners, right? You know, do they solve problems for you while someone maybe that's been very comfortable in their life, right, is like, you know, I'm just treading water until, you know, my next thing, right? So that's really what you have to open up to is, look, you know, diversity might be, look, I'm not checking all the boxes, but I want to dive in to learn about your experience, learn about you, you know, what made you, and then connect that personality to your work. And maybe they have to, you know, catch up a little bit more than someone else. But at the end of the day, you have a rookie. You know, when I talk to people, you know, and this, you know, it's difficult to prove this, but, you know, in baseball, right, you have that rookie phenom, right, throws 100 miles per hour, right, but they're wild, right? They can't get it over the plate, you know, right? So it's like, look, are you going to say no to that rookie that might not have everything that you're looking for, but has the potential to be like amazing, right? And when you put it in that way, it's like, look, I would take that, you know, I would take that rookie. So, you know, let's translate that to technology, you know, let's get your resume and, you know, let's see what that looks like, right? Not on the ball field, but, you know, in your department, right? In your company, right? And that's really conversations that I think a lot of HR managers need to have is sort of, I need to shift, right? I need to.
It's also the hiring managers, right? And this is where we get into, you know, white majority decision makers, you know, that want to follow a pattern, that want to follow it worked for me, so therefore it must work for everyone else. doesn't matter what color you are. Yeah, it does, right? Because not everyone of color is going to have the opportunity, I like how you said it, to go into debt, because that's really what it is about, right? And there are alternate ways to learn skills. So just because it worked for you does not mean it's going to work for everyone else. And I am a big fan of higher education. You went to law school, I went to law school, right? But I realize that's not how everyone learns.
Mm-hmm.
And there are you're involved with resilient coders here in Boston. I love resilient coders. Like, there are alternate ways to learn.
Mm-hmm.
And employers, hiring managers, I push back because they need to open up on the skills and I want a baked muffin.
Mm-hmm.
I want it done. It has to be, baked and finished. No, you want a little bit of, something to work with. Maybe it'll turn into a muffin. Maybe it'll turn into a cookie. Sorry. I don't know where that metaphor came from.
I think that's incredibly on point, right? And it's up to me, it's up to you, it's up to, everyone that works with, underrepresented groups to teach your client, right? Or that candidate to say, you have to sell this. Yeah. You're going to show up and this person might be woke and might be awesome and might be really, inviting. They might not, right? So how do you sell this, right? What are the talking points that you need to make to say, listen, I know that this is an issue, right? But here it is. These are my transferable skills, right? Mm-hmm. This is where you're going to get that value. Yeah, you invest in me, I'm going to invest in you, mm-hmm. and you're going to see, right? And that's up to, it should be the company, right? They should understand this, but we know that they don't, right? So
they should. Oh my God.
Right?
I've been struggling with this my entire career. And, I am grateful that right now is a huge narrative about being anti-racist, pro-black, right? Like, we cannot have that in the American society anymore. And we have to support Black and Latinx individuals, humans, right? It is about, humans doing business with other humans, right? Because they are amazing individuals, not just quotas or statistics.
It's not charity. And one of the things that really pisses me off is that, sort of that mentality, that entitlement is like, we hired someone last year, right? It's like, yourself. We got this, right? We're great. Let's throw a party, right? It's like, no, look, if you really see the value in tapping into the Latinx market, which is going to be, a monster, right? In the next couple of years,
yes.
And, and if you really build a space, for other areas, right? LGBTQ plus, right? Or women, or, if you tap into other resources, you don't have to maybe, go abroad and really start fishing or, finding, new talent. It's like, look, you have homegrown talent here, right? Because now immigration is going to be even harder, based on, what's been going on lately.
Yeah, there's no need to import talent. There's amazing talent in the US.
And for us, and especially in Tequeria, it's like, listen, come into this. I am driving, I have a webinar with school children, in the next couple of weeks. And it's like, this is what you need to be doing today. And the amazing thing about technology is, all right, you might need, you might go to get a doctorate degree in computer science or data science or whatever. That's great. But if you have your skills and you are a monster at what you do, right? And you YouTube, you go to, tons of resources, you can show when you work, when you sit down, right? And you have those conversations and you show your work. It's like, whoa.
You're not just following a script. You're actually using your brain, and you're actually using critical thinking to say, you know what, I don't know what I'm going to face tomorrow, but I'm going to be able to think my way through it. That is more valuable than, in my opinion, a GPA. Hands down. Angel, we could talk forever. I want to, my favorite question to ask all of my guests, what is your favorite art? Earlier, you were talking about how you enjoy working with creatives and creative problem solving, and that could take a lot of different mediums, I ask everyone, because I have a favorite quote from Darren Walker. He's the CEO of the Ford Foundation. And he says, without art, there's no empathy. And
True.
without empathy, there's no justice.
I agree. I'm going to tell you quickly. I studied literature in college, right? And that's been an important part of my life. And it was weird because when I was in literature, I was really doing well there. And all the academics was like, you want to go to law school? What a waste, right? And it's like, it's very, snobbish, right? It's like, you have to continue in academia. And then when I was in law school, it's like, you went to you had a BA in literature. What a waste! Why didn't you do like business, or something like that, right? And to me, literature is telling stories, right? It's telling stories, and in court, I'm telling a story. When I am negotiating, I'm telling a story. I'm getting to know you because you're the other side of the coin, right? I'm negotiating with you. I need to hear your story. Yep. I need to understand it. And I need to use language to communicate my story. So at the end of the day, you're going to see it my way, right? Or maybe we can meet in the middle, right? But that communication is important. So, literature to me has been, telling those stories, those narratives. And that's really been important in my life. Second, and I have to give a shout out to my grandmother who recently passed away. When I was a kid, she would put music on all the time. And we're running around, being kids and just putting classical music on, right? And I never thought about it, right? But then got to a point in my life that I connected with music in a way that it transports you, right? It helps you, go and gets you into that mode, right? So, to me, like music is really important, like all kinds of music. That's been really important. But at the end of the day, it's communicating, emotions, right? It's communicating what's in your heart, right? Yeah. And if we're all business and we're all money and entrepreneurs and there's no beauty, right? There's no sort of emotion behind, our lives, it gets really, sickening, right? Yeah. There's, people burn out.
It's numbing. You get the story you were telling earlier about, the guy who was making fun of his wife. And I'm like, gosh, the first thing that I thought about when you told that story was like, he must be numb. Like just not really understanding the impact that he's having. And it's like, oof, let's get some art into that person.
Yeah, no,
right.
And especially with our kids and with, budgets and people sort of, leaving music out or, not being, and exploring the arts. And look, you need that. And people freak out. It's like, what are they going to do with art? Right. Well, they're going to be better human beings and they're going to be able to connect, let's say if they're in business, they will be able to connect in a way that's going to be amazing. Right. And we're all emotions, right? And if you're able to tap into that, that's going to give you a great heads up over other people. Right. So, the arts for me is like, look, you need to bring more art into business because that's going to unlock creativity and happiness. Right. And we need that. Right.
We do. Angel, it has been lovely chatting with you. Thank you so much. You've shared so many nuggets with our listeners. Absolutely appreciate it. We're going to put a bunch of the links in the show notes so that folks can follow up on Sotomayor's memoir. Sure. And I think it was Jim Collins' Good to Great and all the other resources, Techeria, Resilient Coders, so many great nuggets that we left for folks. So
hopefully it'll be helpful for your listeners. I was happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. We definitely appreciate it. Thank you for joining us on the PeopleNova Podcast. My name is Rachel O'Neill. The team here at PeopleNova Human Capital would love to hear from you. We are always curious to hear from our listeners. So go ahead and send us an email, podcast@peoplenovahc.com, with your workplace questions or suggestions for who you'd like to see on our show. If you send us an audio memo, we may include your question on the show. Lastly, we are here to amplify. Our guests are amazing entrepreneurs, and we want you to forward our newsletter to someone in your network who needs to know the amazing things our guests are doing, so together we can make an impact. Thank you so much. Take care, and we will see you next time.